Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, where we apply the principles of philosophy, spirituality, mysticism, and business to rapid lifestyle transformation. And tonight, I just wanted to do the second video in our series of videos on journaling for rapid lifestyle transformation, actually getting into the hands of the clay on the ground facets of designing your lifestyle. This is lifestyle design, and it's going to be done bringing all of the tools of spirituality and mysticism and philosophy to bear on making this process as quick and as easily as possible. Maintaining the idea, ladies and gentlemen, and remembering that you already have it, and any journey that unfolds in the dimension of the seen and in the dimension of the manifested is simply to enjoy your creation. Because as we spoke about in a previous video, the reason why you don't have to make effort and struggle down the path is because the path itself is an aspect of the desire. Remember, your desire exists, as everything does, on those higher vertical portions of the scale of being. It exists outside of time and space. However, to manifest it in the physical, it must be manifested in time and space. Therefore, that necessitates that different parts be manifested at different times. And of course, the path to the desire is a desire. Either, if you want to get pedantic, you could say either it was a separate desire or it is this part of the same desire. It doesn't matter. So, what I would ask you to do again is get out your journal. This is a really good one. Very cheap, very dependable, a nice notebook. And get yourself alone for a few minutes, and I want you to sit down and continue journaling in the same vein that we were on our last program on this. And I'm going to put a link to the first video in this series in the description for those of you who have not seen it. But at this point, we have not yet started to do research, although I believe in this video we will start talking about the basic categories in which you ought to do research. And you should go at this as not trying to figure out how to get it. Because in these modalities of manifestation, the whole point is that you don't need to figure it out. You don't have to ask about the how. Because the how is being revealed to you eternally in the now. That kind of rhymes, and you can think about it that way. The how is only in the now. So what is going on now will show you how. I like that. I'm probably going to use it more in this channel. But the now is the how. Therefore, being completely in the now and receiving that inspiration, you will get whatever guidance you need for the next step. That is true rationality. It is a rationality which works in complete conjunction and alignment with your subconscious mind, which is the spiritual part of you that knows everything because it is connected to the entire cosmos. It is the cosmos. Because, as we know, on those higher levels of the scale of being, there's no separation. But getting into the nitty-gritty here. So what you did was you started writing, what do I really want? What do I really want? And you penetrated down to the essence of that. So now what I want you to do is something that Joe Dispenza talks about in his works, especially Becoming Supernatural. And that is, I want you to just list a few aspects from your previous exercise. Because if you kept asking yourself, what do I really want? You eventually hit upon emotional and unseen components. Feeling components are those components that we call state in this course. And of course, the state is the entire complex of the atomic parts of what you want, which means it contains feelings, it contains emotions, it contains sense perceptions, and it contains context. Everything that's on that context part of the scale of being that we went into in that video, which of course we'll be publishing. So, the thing about context and the thing about state is that imagine your state. This is a good model, a mental model that you can use to imagine this. Imagine that state is a nexus of different parts of your desire, just to make it very simple. But this nexus is swirling constantly. Therefore, you can be in your state, but you can only see a certain aspect of that state at one time. The only way you embody your state is by going up that spiritual scale to the levels of I am and knowing your divinity. Then you realize that you can attain that state. But when you're grasping to try to focus on that state, you can only focus on a certain aspect of it because it's always swirling around you. And just for the sake of the allegory and the example, imagine that what you're focused on is that place which is right in your line of sight. Let's say it is at the level of your head. The other levels can only be seen maybe viscerally or maybe through peripheral vision, but they will not be seen directly until you ascend up that scale, and then you can grasp the entire complex of that state in one view. But then you're outside of time and space. So this state is a nexus of atomic parts that's swirling around you. And so you can grasp certain aspects of this state. And what I want you to do is I want you to now go into your journal and start writing down the main aspects of this state that you want to see. And I want you to go divide it into feeling and emotional components and in physical components. So first write down a few physical components that you want to see in your state. And we can divide this up. So I would divide life into about 7 areas of responsibility. And they'll differ for different people, but there would be the spiritual, there would be the physical, there would be relationships, there would be career and work. There could be something like financial, if you wanted to have that in its own category. There could be something like home and homestead and where you want to live. Right now, I just want to use the example of home and homestead. Now imagine that you're trying to create where you want to live, a home. And let's say you want to buy a very nice piece of land in a secure area, but you're not now getting into the components of how much that would cost or how you would get there. And you want to think about what you would like your house to be. Let's say a very nice, lofty, one-story building that's built of bricks and that on the inside has wood paneling and wood decor, and let's say it's very rustic. That's an image that's coming to my mind now. I want you to just see this, and I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to explore this. I want you to just look around. And then I want you to describe some of the main aspects, because of course you're not going to be able to describe all of the atoms of this state, but you can get some main aspects. And the purpose of this is to focus your mind in order to be able to embody that state. So what you'll write down is a few key aspects of this, physical aspects. Let's say it has wood decor. Let's say it has some very nice rustic furniture, perhaps an ottoman or something like this, perhaps a leather love seat. Let's say it has a fireplace. Let's say it has very beautiful marble floors, let's say. You go into a certain room and there is a king-size bed that's made up ornately with beautiful silk sheets. You can get as detailed as you can, but come up with about 5 or 6 main physical details. Write those down. Then what I want you to do is write down emotional aspects, and I want you to get at least 3 feelings of how you will feel as you see that. And those could be like, I will feel elated, I will feel happiness when I see that, I will feel satisfied, or for some of you it will be, I will feel excitement, or for some of you it will be, I feel interest, I feel motion forward. Get these 2 lists of emotions and of physical aspects. And then what I want you to do over the next 3 days, I want you to read that list and try to just read it over again until you've got it almost memorized. You can spend a few minutes doing this. Spend about 15 minutes just reading it. And what I want you to do also, this is optional, as Joe Dispenza recommends in his book, you can write a symbol for this. And you can also memorize this symbol while you're reading the components of that, the physical components and the emotional components. I want you to then look at this symbol, and it should be a letter. So for example, if it's a house, you could write the letter H. And then you could and then he says, put a circle around it, like a wavy circle that would symbolize the magnetic energy in that. So let's say, just a very crude drawing of this, we could say H. And then we would draw a sort of squiggly line here, and then draw some rays coming out of that. And this is very important to help you have a mental picture of this. This is basically going to be your symbol that you can pull up in your mind, and the more you train yourself in this, you'll be able to attain that state instantly. So you don't have to think about it, it'll be visceral. For the first few times, I want you to think about the symbol, and then I want you to think about the emotions that you would feel. Even if you can't feel it now, you will get the sense of it, and I want you to try to practice those emotions. So say, for example, it's excitement. So I want you to look at that letter, and then I want you to try to feel excitement. What does excitement mean for me? And for a lot of you, this will backfire because you might not believe in the process, you might have skepticism, and your body might rebel against you. Joe Dispenza also goes into the physiological reasons for this, because the mind has trained the body for so long. So every time the mind has a thought, it releases a chemical in the body. It's through neurotransmitters. And then when that chemical is released, certain muscles in the body, usually in the solar plexus or in the chest area or in the neck, contract. So therefore, when you try to have a thought that's different from the way you've been thinking for a long time, your body will start sending up signals to the brain, and then the brain will have a very imperceptible thought, which will cause all of that to go haywire. So you might even feel like you're having a panic attack. Here's what you do. You look at this letter and you try your best to feel the emotion that's associated with, like excitement. But if you feel yourself tightening up and having a panic attack, stop. Take a few deep breaths, and then just become totally present. And we're going to use this process not to change your beliefs, but to bypass your beliefs so that you can feel the emotions anyway, and so that you can envision your goal and your intention anyway. So what you do is you envision it until you start to feel any kind of anxiety or any kind of nervousness. And sometimes you can keep focusing on it and the nervousness will go away, but sometimes the nervousness gets bigger. In that time, you try to go into alpha. So you look up into the horizon, you take a few deep breaths, and you become totally present. And then you try it again once you become totally calm. Now, you might try it 2 or 3 times and your body will reject it, in which case, stop for the day, take a nap or do what you were doing, and then come back to it later. The whole methodology of this process is to keep hitting and hitting it until you can get around those negative beliefs, and until you can find some way to align yourself with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Because the feeling is part of that state, and once you can tap into that state, you're home free, because you're down the path of that. I want you to do this for about 3 days. And within 3 days, you're going to get so good at this that you're actually going to be living in the state of your wish fulfilled, whether that's a house or a relationship. I want you to pick one thing and start with it. So do that for about 3 days, and I want you to just focus on your wish fulfilled until you can feel that complex of feelings. You practice yourself into this. This is called mental rehearsal. So I just want you to practice yourself into this. By the time you get to this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you the secret now. It renders all of the other steps that we're going to be going into after this video really needless. The only reason you would take the other steps is to feel more in that emotion and more presence of your desire already in your life, or for fun, just to play the game. But if in any step of this process you feel like you're making effort and trying to bring that thing to you by taking steps, then stop doing it. Now, there's another caveat. If stopping doing that makes you feel worse than doing it, then you've got to settle on the thing that makes you feel a little bit better. So sometimes when we have an intention or a goal, we know, of course, that this goal is going to come to us no matter what, based on the spiritual. But still, our physical being believes that we really need to take this action, or we will not have this thing come to us. This thing will not come to us. In that case, what you need to do is go ahead and take the action. Because as Vadim Zeland said, you are on a certain film roll. Now, you're also a multi-dimensional being. So you can take actions that you have to take on a film roll because you can't avoid that. For example, many people have jobs and that's their only source of income. Of course, we're going to get you an independent source of income. But in the meantime, I would never recommend that you just go and straight up quit your job. Even though you don't like going to work, and there are ways that we can pad this to where you'll love going to work, and then that'll be out of your experience. But in the meantime, if you don't like going to work, still go, because under this film roll, you're under compulsion. But while you're on this film roll under compulsion, I want you to, as many times as possible, put yourself on the other film roll. And that other film roll is going to be complete freedom. That's going to be, I don't need to earn my income because I have an income just coming to me without earning it, and I do what I love. You create scenes of that in your mind, and while you're at work, when you can, you put yourself into that state. You imagine yourself as surrounded by what you want to create. Say you want to be on the beach, and we've talked about this many times. While you're at work, you can imagine that you're on the beach, and you can get so good at it that you can do your work while you're hearing the sounds and smelling the smell of the salt water and seeing the sights of the beach. You can do this because I have done this many times, and many spiritual teachers have discussed this. You are multidimensional, and you can hold 2, 3, or 4 dimensions in your mind at the same time until you cannot distinguish between them. So do that. These are little tricks of the trade here that are going to help you immensely. You don't have to take any extreme action on this film roll. You don't have to try to rebel against the film roll, because the more you rebel against it, there's no in the universe. So the more you fight something, the more it's going to grow, and then the more you're going to have to just acquiesce to that. That's because you're on a film roll. But you can be on multiple other film rolls at the same time. That's why this is so easy, and that's why discovering this makes your life take off. And sooner than you know it, the circumstances that you wish to create will be fully evident in your life. So this was the second part of that series. Keep journaling. I want you to get it down to a symbol. I want you to get some emotions and physical aspects of that onto lists. And then next time we're going to show you how to actually start taking action steps to get that into your life quicker than you thought possible. Thanks for watching. If you do find value in our materials, please subscribe and like, because we're releasing videos of great value every single day. Thank you so much for joining me. With great love and appreciation, this is Javier, and I'll see you very soon.